Our next speaker is both an academician and an industry practitioner. In the past, he worked in various hotels and resorts and also was an adjunct faculty member of both local and international higher education institutions. He is currently a technical expert at Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, TESDA, where he assists with the development of the curricula and training materials, review and validate the amended training regulations for the National Certificate or NC2 for front office services. He is the founder, chief equipping officer, and master trainer of the Filipino Hospitality, a consulting team that provides consultancy and training services for the Department of Tourism, DOT, TESDA, as well as numerous private companies. He is a facilitator trainer of choice for the Tourism Industry Skills Program of the Department of Tourism, facilitating various modules on service excellence, ASEAN Homestay Standard, Train the Trainers, and other ASEAN Common Competency Standards for tourism professionals. He is an MRA-TP consultant at ASEAN Secretariat and an international consultant for the project of enhancing the competitiveness of ASEAN human resources through TVET curriculum supported by involvement of industries and labor market for the ASEAN and Korea Research International Vocational Education and Training, or CREVET. Our speaker earned his master's in International Hospitality Management at Lyceum of the Philippines and a graduate diploma in Tourism Management and Development at the University of the Philippines Asian Institute of Tourism. Let us all welcome Mr. Martin Aguilar.
All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Jerome, for that introduction. Very, very long introduction. Appreciate it. Just to highlight my credibility and ensure that I am not one of the students that are commenting in our Facebook Live right now. Yes, I am your next resource speaker. So as mentioned by Jerome, I am the founder and chief consultant of the Filipino Hospitality, and we're currently based in Palawan. It's nice to see that we do have a participant attending via Facebook Live from Puerto Princesa as well. So greetings from Palawan, of course, considered one of the best islands in the world. So I'm much like Martin in Thailand right now. I'm pretty much stuck here in Paradise Island. All right. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a little about global competitiveness amidst COVID-19 and beyond. So later I'm going to be sharing with you about leveling up for the next normal. So let me go ahead and share my PowerPoint for your convenience. All right. So now if you're viewing it from the Facebook Live and if you are seeing it, can I see thumbs up there in the Facebook chat below? All right. So there you go. So we're seeing now my PowerPoint. So as mentioned, I'm going to be sharing with you why we should level up for the next normal. So why do we really need to? I mean, most of you, I see in the comments, you are currently in a 4-year course, or some of you are current professionals, some of you are working from travel agencies, some from hotels and resorts, maybe some who are considering of entering the market, a market that has been badly hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. And so you are about to enter an industry that is very, very competitive. And so we are going to be talking about why we should level up. All right. So just to share with you a few highlights, an outline of what I'm going to be sharing. Of course, I'm just going to be sharing a little about our company and what we do. And then later after that, I'm going to be sharing with you why we need to level up as future or maybe as current tourism professionals. And then after that, how we can act local and then think global as the topic of the series of what we're discussing right now. Yeah, sounds good. All right. So now, just to share with you an overview on the Filipino hospitality and what we do. As mentioned already, we are a management consultancy company previously based in Muntinlupa, but we just relocated here in Palawan, of course, because of the pandemic. I'm sure all of you can also or would like to consider living in Paradise Island, right? So we basically did that, right? But then essentially, because of course we do have a mission, and later I'm going to be sharing with you our mission here in Palawan. But essentially, what we do is we collaborate with ASEAN master trainers and assessors in the Philippines, right? So I myself am part of the ASEAN master. I am myself an ASEAN master assessor, specifically on front office services. And our role for the Philippines really is to promulgate the ASEAN Common Competency Standards for tourism professionals. Now, for our company, our objective, one of our missions really is to integrate the natural warmth of our Filipino hospitality, thus the name, right? The Filipino hospitality. We know, we believe that the Filipino people are one of the most, if not the most hospitable people in the world. That's part of who we are. That's our culture, that's our history, right? And so what we want is for us to maintain our identity, maintain the warmth of the natural Filipino hospitality, and then combine it with international standards. And so that we level up our competitiveness, of course, of our tourism professionals. And we've been conducting training, as mentioned earlier by Jerome, since 2018 through the Department of Tourism, through TESDA, and of course the Department of Trade and Industry. And I think we've handled about a little over 200 training programs in the last few years. I think we're reaching about 1,000 participants. But of course, given our technology now, it stretches even further, right? Because of our increased reach, right? Because of course, with the digital technology. And that is the way to go right now. We're going virtual. Now, there is a question, why do we need to level up as future or current tourism professionals? Can I be just contented of what I'm doing right now? Or maybe I'm already studying a 4-year course. I'm going to be graduating in what? In 2-3 years, or maybe you are in your first year right now, right? So I'm going to be graduating in a few years. And so what's wrong with my Philippine qualification? Definitely there's nothing wrong with that, right? So having a Philippine qualification is perfectly fine, right? But as a current tourism professional, and as someone in the industry who have been observing or looking at our current tourism professionals, we realize that there is still a gap. That has been a challenge not only in the Philippines but in the rest of the ASEAN region as well. As mentioned by Jerome earlier, we actually have a research program, a study, where we're looking at all the technical vocational education and training institutions all over ASEAN region, right? So in the ASEAN region, we have 10 countries, and we're currently studying the best practices, right? The study, the curriculum design and the implementation of TVET in all of the 10 countries in the ASEAN region. And we see, not only in TVET, but even in higher education institutions, that there is a lot of gap that is still in place, that is happening in the academe. And so we want to fill in that gap, right? We want to ensure that our graduates, our students, tourism, hospitality students are competent, who are work ready. And so we want to fill in that gap. And so that's what we have been doing in partnership, in collaboration with, of course, our partners, the Department of Tourism, TESDA, and DTI, the past few years. Now, to share further, right, why we need to level up as a professional, maybe even a future as a current tourism professional, we know for a fact that competition is higher than ever before. As mentioned, based on research, about 4.8 million jobs were affected because of the pandemic. So they either lost their jobs or their salaries were lowered. And we've been seeing this happening not only in the Philippines, but around the globe. A lot of people lost their jobs. You can just imagine 4.8 million. In fact, here in Palawan alone, I think it's estimated about 17,000 tourism workers lost their jobs. Imagine you as a future tourism professional graduating in about 2 3 years or in 4 years. You're going to enter a market where you are competing with actual tourism professionals who have been in the industry for quite some time, who has experience already, and who are looking for jobs, right? And so that is really going to be a challenge by most of our tourism and hospitality students right now, right? Competition is higher than ever before. We cannot be complacent. You cannot just be normal. I'm not telling you to be abnormal, okay? But, you cannot be complacent. You cannot be status quo. You cannot be typical. You have to stand out, right? As mentioned by Martin Nichols earlier, as a hospitality headhunter, I'm sure he is used to looking at numerous CVs, evaluating, interviews, applying for a job. And so sometimes, and I've experienced this myself, for example, we're partnering up with a certain school, and this school will give us several candidates, right? And so sometimes it's quite funny that most of these candidates would submit a curriculum vitae, a resume that are basically the same. They have the same template, same font. The only thing I would different would be the names and their faces, but essentially all of the content, the trainings they conducted, the courses, all of it basically are the same. Now that's a challenge. How will you stand out? How will you be noticed by an employer? So that's what we're saying right now. With so much competition, ahead of you or with you, you need to stand out, right? Another point, that why we need to level up is that needs and expectations are changing. Our guests, our travelers are very particular right now. And so, with the onset of being stuck at home, who among you can relate that you want to travel? Can I see in the comment? Can you type in the comment section if you yourself can relate? Do you want to travel? Where do you want to travel? Can you write there in the comment section where you want to travel? San yung bucket list or your next travel destination? Can we see there in the chat box? Everybody, I think, wants to travel, and similarly our guests too, right? We are expecting a wave of revenge travel. Revenge travel is basically, the feeling of, I'm stuck in a few years, I mean a few months. I haven't been traveling like I used to, and so I want to travel once again. And so I reevaluate my bucket list, and so yes, I want to go here, I want to go there, I want to do this, I want to do that, right? That's the mentality of our next generation of travelers. There is a revenge travel that we are preparing, but then we have to expect that needs and expectations are changing as well. For particularly safety, right? A lot of our travelers are going to be very particular on safety, on hygiene, right? They want to ensure that their families, their friends, of course, themselves, even if they're vaccinated, are safe, right? With the Delta variant happening right now, safety, hygiene is very important. We can expect a lot of socially responsible, environmentally responsible travelers as well in the next few months or even the years to come. A lot of people are going to be expecting on flexible travel where, it's a must right now for travel agencies, travel companies, airlines, hotels, and resorts to offer, free cancellation, free schedule, such as those, right? We are expecting flexible travel happening in the next few months. But then, just to highlight, at the end of the day, it is all about innovation. It is going to be about adaptability. And, as they always say, the only constant thing in life is change, similar to our industry and similar to our businesses. And of course, similar to you as future tourism professionals, we would expect that you need to be innovative. You need to self reinvent yourself and you need to stand out in order for you to be competitive. All right. And so adaptability is the key, as well as, of course, evolution, the evolution for you to reinvent and to grow and to develop, right? And so that is one of the reasons why we need to level up. Lastly, is our hospitality and tourism, our industry is at the 4.0 already. I'm sure you've heard this buzzword already, industry 4.0, where we talk about industries. Of course, when you say 4.0, I'm sure there you would think that there is a 1, 2, 3.0, right? Yes, those are the changes, right? The differences or the development of the industries, where from manual labor we went to steam engine, we went to mechanization, we went to mass production, we went to automation, and then the computers came, and now we are at the cyber physical time, where the internet of things, all of these technology are already in place. And so if you are still behind, if you are still from the past, right, you will not be able to evolve and adapt. That the industry, the needs, the expectations are changing, and so must we. And so that is why we recommend to our tourism. We have, I see in the lineup of participants that we do have faculty members, we do have representatives of different schools in attending our webinar right now. You have to reevaluate your curriculum. You have to look at where you can incorporate 21st century skills, right? Today, everything is digitally driven. The rise of the future of work lies on the ability to know and understand new technology. You have data analytics, you have the utilization of digital tools that has to be incorporated in your curriculum, in your training design. And so that is what we're trying to do right now as well. We're trying to cooperate with current hotels and resorts all over the Philippines in order to push them to develop moving forward, right? And so that is to highlight that hospitality and tourism 4.0 is here finally, right? And the COVID pandemic situation just basically made it faster to arrive, because we don't have a choice. With social distancing in place, we had to, right? Now, the last question brings us to, how can we act local and think global? How can you be glocal, as they say, right? Why do you need to act local? We have this tendency, I think that's part of our culture as Filipinos, that we tend to emulate, we tend to look elsewhere. We try to look, what's happening out there, right? And that actually makes sense, looking at progressive countries, say for example, like London, like the UK, right? Of course, the ASEAN region, the ASEAN qualifications framework that we are promulgating is actually based on, if you take the history and the root, it's actually based on Australian qualifications. And so, it makes sense to look at international standards. But why must you act local? Why do you need to maintain your identity? As mentioned, when we established our company, the Philippine Hospitality, that was one of the highlights. That's one of our core principles, to maintain your identity, to keep, our natural Philippine hospitality, our culture, our history, right? To never forget who we are as Filipinos, to act local, and then to think global, to incorporate international standards, to learn, of course, from the best, right? So how can we do that? What must we do in order to go through that? So basically, in order to act local, for me, whenever we consult our clients, instead of basically, everybody wants to be like, international companies, right? We have the tendency as Filipinos to say, for example, look at what they're doing in Bali, right? Because they're a very successful tourism destination, and try to incorporate elements of it in our own backyards, right? But that doesn't make sense. Bali, Indonesia, for example, is very rich in culture and in their history because that is part of who they are, right? So we as Filipinos have to have our own identity, our own branding, right? We've been conducting for the Department of Tourism. The Department of Tourism has a program and it's called the Filipino Brand of Service Excellence. And we've been highlighting on service from the heart, service based on our values as a Filipino people, our being godly, right? Being makabayan, right? All of these elements, the 7 M's of the Filipino values, right, has been highlighted by the Department of Tourism. Why? Because we need to have our own brand. We need to have our own identity. And so we have to maintain that. We have to continue to represent ourselves, represent our people, differentiate ourselves from all the rest, but still having that sense of international quality, a quality, the kind of service or the kind of level of service that is expected from, say, for example, international brands, right? Such as the chains, such as, all of these successful destinations all over the world. And so must that is the track, that is the road, that is the path we must take in order to be competitive. All right. So basically, that's it. I'm going to be ending with that. Should you have any other questions, we'll open the floor later for your question and answers. But if I may ask, and if I may request everyone to join us in our community, right? So please go ahead and search for us in Facebook, The Filipino Hospitality. We're also at LinkedIn. We're also at YouTube. Please go ahead and subscribe to our channel there in YouTube. Of course, in Instagram at The Filipino Hospitality. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, looking forward to your questions.